Boxing King Media. We're back here with a Brutally Honest podcast, episode 38. And congratulations, Dom. We hit 2 million views on the podcast on YouTube. From all the episodes we've done. That's a decent number, that.
Good. Well, you know, I don't know the numbers.
Yeah, it's obviously people are enjoying the podcast. We're consistently getting a good fan base of people watching every week. So yeah, I think it's a bit of an achievement. I definitely would say it's one of the highest viewed YouTube podcast things that's out there. And it's mainly just two of us.
That's good.
Yeah, I think people must be enjoying your opinion.
Entertainment.
They're enjoying your opinion. However, if I look at the comments from the last one, I was trying to look at some feedback we get.
I bet it's all good, innit? It's always good feedback, innit? I don't bother reading the comments. I never do, to be honest. But
well, normally the comments are quite good. People talk about certain things. But this one, there's about 3-4 people saying, why are you giving diet advice when you've let yourself go? So there's a few people saying that you've put a bit of weight on, Dom.
Really?
Yeah, apparently
you're not just making this up to like clickbait, or as my kids call it, rage bait. It's not to get me raging, is it?
No.
Is that what people have said, really?
Yeah, but apparently you had a bit of a gut from the last one. So I'm going to put you on the spot, and I'm pretty confident that you'll be happy to kind of disprove these myths. But apparently they reckon you've got put a bit of a gut on and slightly out of shape, so you shouldn't be going around giving people diet plans.
Interesting. No, I'm still in good shape. What I'm going to say, you know, any of these people who want to come to the gym, do a workout, fitness, if they want to stand in this gym like we often do sometimes in front of that mirror and there's just in front of us underpants, that's what we do with people. So if somebody wants to come up here who's in better shape than me at 58 years old, even there'll be some kids at probably 40s, probably 30s who aren't, a lot of them, they can always come up. But I am actually tempted to stand up and take my shirt off to prove the doubters wrong. But
now that you said it, I'm going to make you do it.
But to be honest, I don't really want to do that because I think I might wait until the numbers on the podcast start to drop. And then if I do that, it'll raise the numbers up. Or I've been advised, I've had a few people getting onto me to do an OnlyFans page. You imagine me in a pair of Y in a Calvin Klein boxer shorts or Y fronts, I could probably make a fortune, probably more than doing fitness and nutrition.
In fact, there's a picture of you from back in the day in a band.
Oh yeah, there's plenty of pictures. Yeah, it's been a band. Yeah, walking around in my underpants and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just going to ask you: is there any chance? Because I know there's pictures of you back in the day because you used to do weightlifting and what's that thing called?
I used to. I still do weight training. I still train.
When you pose on the stage, what's it called?
Oh, I did a few bodybuilding shows a long time ago in my 20s. Yeah, but.
So you're not shy of getting flexing in front of the camera?
I'm not shy of stripping off to me pants and walking around in a pair of shorts.
Well, I know you've got pretty decent abs. Do you reckon we could just show them that your abs, Dom?
Nah, I'm not stripping off. I'm not giving into peer pressure.
That.
You know, and it might scare a few people off.
Well, I tell you what, how about you flex with your top on?
Nah, I'm not even doing that.
No,
they could actually be right. I might just be bluffing it, and I might be in terrible shape, and I'm just trying to style it out. There's always that possibility.
Yeah.
But as a few people have found out over the past 12 months or so, they've called me bluff, and it's not really worked to their advantage. So you know. Okay. You've always got to be careful when you're calling people's bluffs for what you might find out.
Yeah, well, you're looking in decent shape from what I can see. I tell you what, 50. Are we allowed to say how old you are?
Yeah, I don't care. I'm not a woman, am I?
Yeah.
58 in September. Yeah.
Yeah, 58 years old, Dom. Looking pretty well. So talking about the boxing subjects, Dom, I think. In fact, I tell you what. Before we talk about boxing, just remembered, you asked for size 8.5. In the Boxraw boxing boots, and look how quickly I managed to get them for you.
Good.
But they don't do 0.5s, so they've got the next size up, size 9.
All right.
So I'm going to let you.
I'll be tripping over my toes then in a size 9.
Yeah. We're going to need your initial reaction to what
you know what they say about people with big feet, don't you?
No.
You do, but in this case it won't be true because these are size 9 and I'm never a size 9.
All right.
But yeah, so look at these. They look good. This is actually probably the first pair of boxing boots I've ever had.
No way.
Yeah, it is. I usually do it in tennis shoes or trainers, but I'm going to put these on and it's going to motivate me to get back in the ring. I've seen that old fella online, the coach is about Frank somebody, 70, 80 years, from Scotland. He's doing well with his boxing stuff. So I've watched him this morning. I might have to get back on the bags again.
So you tell me in all your time of boxing in the gym, you've never ever wore boxing boots?
No, probably when I boxed, when I was about 12, I had a pair.
Wow, that's mad.
So... Yeah, very good. Lovely. Good style.
What do you think of the? I was going to ask you about if you look at the grip on them, because there's some mad technology in these.
No, it's got good grip, you can tell.
because the way they're designed, apparently the sole is designed to enhance your power transfer from the canvas.
Well, they look like they've got a bit of spring in them, so I can imagine that they are. But listen, the proof's in the pudding, and I'll have to try them on and see how they go. But they look good. First unboxing of the boots. Thank you, Boxraw.
Yeah, 150 quid if anybody wants them. I'll have the link in the comments. Pretty reasonably priced for high-level boxing boots. So yeah, and also they've still got a summer sale on as well, so up to 60% off on some of this stuff. So jump on it. Moving on to the boxing, Dom. What kind of boxing? Big news yesterday, which kind of shocked the boxing community, but I know a lot of people have kind of known about it in the background. But Stefy Bull, local trainer, convicted yesterday, and you know what people are saying, he's looking at 10 plus years. He gets sentenced in August, convicted for conspiracy to supply drugs. Yeah, I just want to get your reaction. Has anything like that happened in boxing before? Quite shocking in this day and age.
You know what? There's been quite a few. There's been quite a few people involved with drugs in boxing over the years. And it's funny because another one's just been brought to my mind. He was a middleweight. I wish I could remember his name. Boxed for Eddie Hearn, actually. Steve somebody, and he got done trying to smuggle it into the UK. He got about 10, 15 years. I think he'll be due out soon. Good boxer as well. The name will come to me. In fact, he boxed one of my kids. Anyway, yeah, and there's another guy in the Midlands a few years back. Might be about 2017, 2018, a fella called Les Allen, who was a promoter. His dad was quite a famous boxer from that area. And Les Allen and some other fellas, they were all involved with drugs, and they got roped in and locked up. So I think if you actually did a Google search, you'd find quite a bit. You know, don't forget when boxing started, you know, years back, it was all underworld stuff and, you know, betting and, you know, unlicensed and dodgy stuff going on, and it always, you know, attracts certain characters, doesn't it, boxing? So it's no surprise really that this kind of stuff happens.
Yeah, you've obviously been in and out of prisons over years for, you know, helping, you know, people out with, you know, through your dad's work that he did in the community. How do you think you'll probably find that experience in there for somebody who's probably never been in?
I won't like to think I ever had to go to prison. I mean, you know, people taking away your liberty and not being able to do what you want. And especially for him, he's been a boxer, he's been involved in boxing, he's been quite high profile. It just does make you scratch your head and wonder why you'd possibly go down that route of doing that. You know, what's the crack there? Like, you know, it's hard making a living in boxing. He boxed, Stefy Bull. He's promoted successfully, trained people, managed people, and he's had some decent high-level fighters. But even when you've got them high-level fighters, it's still difficult to make money because, you know, you're waiting for the big fights. I know, I've been doing it for 40 years and you have to save every penny. And, you know, I'd like to be driving around in a flash Porsche and living in a £300,000, £400,000 house, but the reality is that's not how it happens. That's the money's for the boxers. So, you know, when I did see some of his stuff, and I do see people posting stuff, I just take it with a pinch of salt because most of it's just fake. And obviously, you know, he's had some money through drugs and he's probably kind of passed it off as boxing. But, you know, there's very, very few boxing manager trainers, you know, the level that we're at, who are making massive amounts of money. You know, you just don't do it. It's the promoters and the boxers who are making the money.
I think it highlights probably that important factor about what money trainers actually make. I don't know if it was you or somebody else told me once, to make even like 50 grand a year, your gym's going to be turning over £500,000 a year.
Yeah, you've got to, if you're getting 10%, you've got to be turning over 500 grand a year to just get 50 grand. And there's not many gyms in the country doing that. Obviously, we have kids coming here, but we don't. All the money what comes into this gym from the amateurs, it just runs the club. My dad would never take a wage, never took a wage out of this gym. We don't take a wage out of this gym. It's totally self-sufficient and run by the funds what the kids put in. So, you know, our bread and butter was actually going out on the road with pros and fighting, and that's how we did it. And things have changed. Yeah, there's not as many. I mean, we had years ago, we put out 40, 50 fighters. 10, 15 might be journeymen. You had 10 10, 15, middle of the road, decent fighters, win and loss, and then you'd add the upper elite level with fighters. But it all whittles down over time, and there's not that circuit anymore. The boxing, just if I compare back to 20 years ago, it's not as it was. You had lots of stables, you had Nobby Nobs in Birmingham, you had a lot of journeymen, you had lots of different fighters and different promoters and different trainers, and there were plenty of opposition there. They're getting a lot in from abroad. It's cheaper. There's not as many around in the UK. All the old school journeymen like Peter Buckley, Cole Taylor, Brian Coleman, all them type of fighters, they've all gone. There's none of them around anymore. So boxing's changed massively, and like I say, it's I think he's getting sentenced in August, Stefy Bull. And there's a lot of people already in Doncaster, reveling in his downfall, but that's just human nature if you're in it.
Yeah, it is. Talking at August, Dillian Whyte, I don't suppose he had any phone calls
Well, it's funny because after that interview, about a day after, because Dillian has actually got my number, I used to message him every now and again over stuff. And so I've had a few withheld number calls after that. So maybe I'm going to get, some threats down the phone. But
just for the record, this is banter, because the amount of people that takes what you say as serious.
No, but I have been having calls on withheld numbers. I don't think it's Dillian, but
Yeah. But the amount of people that believe everything that we say on here is quite funny. Some people don't get dry humour anymore.
No, they don't. No,
it's very unfortunate.
It's all taken at face value, isn't it?
It is. Galal Yafai this weekend, the Yafai brothers have done a lot in boxing. The older brother's been a world champion, the middle one's been a European champion, the youngest one Olympic gold, and obviously you saw what he did to Sonny Edwards, and now he jumps into a really big fight this weekend. In only his 10th fight, he's fighting this big punching Mexican who's got 27 knockouts in 30 odd fights, only lost at a very high level. A bit of a wild fight. If you was looking at the matchmaking, I said this to him yesterday, you would never put a 10-0, forget the Olympic gold medal, a 10-0 fighter against a guy that's had nearly 40 plus fights and so many knockouts. But it kind of shows the ability they've got.
He's not a young man, is he? He's knocking on, he's getting up there because he stayed in the amateurs a long time. So really, it's kind of now or never, because realistically youth counts for a lot. And I would imagine he's younger than the Mexican, is he?
In fact, you never know, because the Mexican looks young. He's one of these Mexicans that's fought a lot of fights, so you put me on the spot, but I'll find out. But yeah, let you carry on.
So you tend to find that, for Mr. Yafai, it's better that he probably takes his opportunity while it comes, and then, and see where he's at. He's either going to win or fall short, and then he can reassess and go again, can't he? Because he's in a light division, and there's not, massive amounts of fighters. I think it's there. It's his for the taking if he's cracked up to what he's made to be.
Yeah, they're both the same age, both 32.
Oh yeah, well, it's not young, is it?
Yeah, so but the Mexicans had 47 fights.
Yeah, now he's got a lot of experience, so it could be a difficult fight for Galal.
Yep. So wish him all the best this Saturday. Talking about. So the big stuff I want to talk about is it's been hitting the news in the last couple of days, is this ongoing dispute. It kind of pops up every now and again. Carl Froch, Eddie Hearn, Anthony Joshua, this little crazy love triangle of the ex-fighter who's Eddie's golden boy and then the next golden boy, and it seems to be some chaos going off over there. But before I hit that, I'll talk about Eddie Hearn. We saw at the weekend Richardson Hitchens beat Kambosos Jr. Really good win. This Hitchens kid is obviously an amazing fighter. So there's a common trend here. So I'm going to name drop some fighters: Devin Haney, Richardson Hitchens, Edgar Berlanga, Canelo to an extent, and even Shakur Stevenson. There's probably another one that I forgot. All these American fighters that Eddie's kind of brought through, signed them all on short-term contracts, 3 to 4 fight deals. I think he's kind of built a lot of them, got them the belts, got the name out there. And then basically he's got to the point where it was time to cash in, put him in the big fights, and they've all kind of gone a separate way. So Shakur Stevenson, after his last fight, and he was putting stuff out saying he's now signed with Lou DiBella, etc., and there was a bit of back and forward. Richardson Hitchens, after his interview finished at the weekend, said, I'm now a free agent, which Eddie took quite personal. Devin Haney, we know from the past where Eddie's built him up and then he's gone solo, and then his career's kind of gone he's kind of vanished a bit. And But what I'm basically saying is, or suggesting is, it seems like these fighters are wanting to negotiate deals directly with the people in Saudi Arabia for big fights. That's what it seems like. What do you kind of make of that? Because Eddie basically described the managers around Richard Hitchens, or the people around him, as dogs.
Yeah, but most people around boxers are dogs anyway. They're all looking for a few quid. You know, when you see, you know, it reminds me of like a man eating at the table and his dog's waiting for the scraps. And that's how boxing is. The boxer eating at the table, making all the money, and all the entourage is hanging around on the floor to see what drops or what, you know, benefits they can get from it. And it's never been any different. It was the same with Naz. You know, all the fights we've had over the years, they've all kind of rolled in with a bit of entourage, and everybody's hanging out for something. Whether it's a name check, a fist pump, a photo at the side of the ring, trying to work their way in. And they use it as a blag then. Oh, I know so-and-so, I'm in his corner. They're pulling women, they're blagging people for money, sponsorship. It's never no different. So, you know, it can't be surprised at all, because that's what you expect. If it's on the balance of things, it's more likely going to go that way than the other way, the good way. And I think, you know, Eddie's not stupid, but there must be a reason why he's only signing him to 3 fights. And probably the reason why is because in America, it's a bit different to Britain. At one time in Britain, we're talking 20 odd years ago, if you were a promoter by the British Board of Control, you had a promoter's license, you were only allowed to sign a fighter to 4 fights on a board contract, on a promotional contract. So you allowed 4 fights, and then you had to renegotiate. And that's how it went on for years. That's what, when Naz first signed his contract, I forget, it might have been with Mickey Duff, or it might have been Barry Hearn, I can't remember which one it was. It was 4 fights, and then after 4 fights, they tried to negotiate it. They left that promoter, went to the next one, had 4 fights, negotiated it, didn't get what they went to Frank. So it was either Barry Hearn, Mickey Duff and Frank, or Mickey Duff, Barry Hearn, then Frank Warren. But what happened then is they found a way to kind of circumvent that. And what promoters started doing then is having a private contract with the fighter. So the promoter might not have got a promoter's license, but he's got a company, and there'll be somebody else in that company who's the promoter. It could be Frank. Frank might not have got a promoter's license. It might say Frank Warren Promotions. I can't remember now, but it might be somebody else who holds a license. So you can have a private contract with the fighter, which has nothing to do with the board. Now, I would imagine if these fighters are only having 3 fights with Eddie, there'll be something in the American rules or whatever, how it works. It's different to the UK. That I think even if I remember Willie Hutchinson, because he was managed by Shelley Finkel, he had to have a different type of contract, because Shelley Finkel was an American promoter and manager. Willie Hutchinson was a British fighter. He was licensed here, and there's some kind of rule with the board. If it's a foreign manager and promoter, there's got to be a different contract to it. So I'd imagine something to do with America, why they can only sign to 3 fights, because if Eddie could sign them to more than 3 fights, he would, because he'd protect his investment. So it's not like they've probably stipulated, said, you know, we're only going to do 3 fights and that's it, and he's had to stand for it, because, you know, he's not protecting his investment, is he? So somewhere, you can probably research it, we could probably find out. Somebody will probably message me on Instagram. I know a few people in America, a couple of people who follow boxing, who know what the rules and regulations are. And that's probably why he's not managed to keep hold of them. So, you know, they're in a prime position, 3 fights, they get where they want to be, they clear off and they go direct and do their own thing.
Well, I think Eddie was questioning the loyalty factor, and obviously because of position, Richard is...
Well, I'm going to give you a famous quote from Mickey Duff. If you want loyalty, buy a dog. And that's a fact. And Mickey Duff, back in the day, I mean, I've been in a fortunate position to have been around all these type of people. You know, a lot of people won't remember Mickey Duff.
You know, there's a counter-argument to that as well, Dom, and and then you can probably carry on with your example. What if this Hitchens fighter, let's say if you lost all the 3 fights, would Eddie be wanting to carry on with him?
Oh no, because there'll be a stipulation in the contract. His argument? Yeah, it works both ways. The contract is, you know, I think on a lot of contracts, it's you get beat, we'll bring you back, we'll give you a fight, and then if you win, you're back on it again. 2 losses and you kind of get struck off. That's how it tends to work. You know, unless you've acquitted yourself well in the fight and it's been a close fight. If it's been a complete whitewash, then you're out on your ear, so to speak. But yeah, Mickey Duff, Terry Lawless, Jarvis Astaire, Mike Barrett, all these people back in the 70s when I we were involved with them, how boxing was. It's never any different. They had them all on tight contracts, and there was loyalty there because they were the only people who could get you the big fights. If you wanted a world title fight, you had to be signed up to make it off. And then you got people coming in like Barry Hearn and Frank Warren who kind of broke up the cartel, so to speak, and it opened boxing up a lot. But it's the same. It's in all promoters' best interest to make as much money as they can for themselves. That's just how it is. And it's the same for the boxers. They want the best deal. And I did say, and I think in previous interviews when we were talking about Riyadh season and everything else, eventually, the fighters will be going straight to the promoters on themselves. They'll be bypassing managers and agents and stuff, and or they'll be going to the person who's paying. And maybe it's coming to the point with Eddie where they no longer need that middleman. They're going to go straight to the, obviously if Turkey's promoting the fight, go to him. It's not that Eddie's promoting the fight, is it? Eddie's got the fights he's promoting. And I suppose an example as well, which has just sprung to mind. Look at, the last time I was in Riyadh and Joe Cordina got beat. And where's he? Is he still managed by Eddie? Is he still promoted by Eddie? Good fighter, but he seems to have disappeared off the face of the earth after a bad loss.
He's boxing on the matchroom shows.
Oh, they'll be back in it. But it's been a long time. That's been over a year, has it? A bit over a year. So it's horses for courses. Look at Dave Allen. He was the darling of the boxing for so long, and then he got beat, and he kind of got disappeared to one side, and then he's back on board again. So whatever you're winning, everybody loves you. When they don't, nobody wants to talk to you.
So I suppose your example in conclusion is if the fighter's done his bit, he's won the fights, and then he sees right to basically decide what he wants to do. Yeah. Loyalty obviously doesn't play a factor.
Promoters are in the business for a long time. Eddie's a multi-millionaire. Frank's got plenty of money. Fair play, they've done the graft. Boxing careers are very short. Look at the people like Mike Tyson, Marvin Hagler, Roberto Duran, all these fighters. Who else have we got? Mike McCallum, in some fantastic fights. Look at Michael Watson, Gerald McClellan, all these fighters, they've got a certain lifespan of boxing, and a lot of them are, Michael Watson and McClellan have been maimed by boxing. And, for all the money they've had, like a lot of them haven't got the money left. They become bankrupt, they lose the money, they end up, poor, scratching around, and they've had millions, whether it's, they can't manage money or they've been badly advised or people have ripped them off. There's loads of cases or examples when you look at stories about Don King ripping fighters off. So you can understand why fighters have got to maximise their earnings, because it's a very, very limited time frame they've got to make the money. And very few boxers finish boxing in a great place.
Well, there was an interesting ending to that. So when he said that, the next day, Turki Al Sheikh put something out, I think it was on the Ring magazine, basically saying if Hitchens wants to fight on Riyadh season, he will only discuss his fights with Eddie Hearn. So I don't know if that was Eddie's way of basically, I think Eddie basically said he had a heartwarming call from Turki Al Sheikh this morning who confirmed he will only deal with Matchroom moving forward on Richardson Hitchens. So we will begin those negotiations, which is almost like, well, you're not getting...
Well, that's fair enough, because like I say, if Turkey's...
But he's not contracted anymore, that's what I mean, so...
Well, it don't matter though. Well, it maybe he's not, but the thing is them, Turkey will be looking and thinking, well, he probably looks at the situation and thinks, well, Eddie's done a great job with this fella. And Turkey's probably got a good relationship with Eddie. And in business, that's what, good business is all about, good relationships and not ripping people off. So if the dealings between Eddie and Turkey have always been good, well, maybe Turkey's just saying, well, yeah, I'll deal with fighters, but, Eddie can have the hassle of them, and I'll go through them and I'll put them on, but I don't need any of that hassle. And realistically, I don't want to be working with people, disloyal people. That's fair enough.
Well, it was the funny part of it was Oscar De La Hoya tweeted him saying, if you're a free agent, give me a call.
Might have him dressed up in stockings and a dress and putting lipstick on, mine.
Well, each to their own. So moving on, I think the next main thing we want to talk about is, as I said earlier, this whole dispute with Carl Froch, Eddie Hearn, and talking about Anthony Joshua. So if you want to watch that, tune in for part 2, which will be out this Sunday, but it'll be out for the members already.
Come on.